Sorry, click in links for Odyssey. Bitch, you join this channel, become a member, support channel, the various other links, or join the Telegram and Gab. So as the country gets dumber and dumber, and as it very much is getting dumber and dumber, people will just accept the Tyler Perryization of entertainment. And I mean, to his credit, like, yeah, those movies are dumb, but they try to go for heart a little bit. Like, they're not just dumb. Like, he's going for a theme there of like family focused type of thing. Like, I see what he's doing there and he does it well. It's just, but you know what I mean? It's like, it's really kind of, those are really low grade comedies, but as they go, I guess you have to give Tyler Perry some credit that he's giving people what they want. And as low grade comedies go, they are kind of sweet. But I mean, you know, if you tried to watch like 2 Tyler Perry movies in a row, wow, that would be rough to get through. So the country, it's like the Tyler Perryization of entertainment, of where, like, this is going to make $1 billion. I'm sure people are, well, Natalie Portman, to be fair, as a leading lady, she's in her 40s. That's a hard sell as a leading lady, to try to get butts in seats when there's not a hot chick. So yeah, she was a hot chick when she was 18, when she was in whatever, that Star Wars thing. She's 40. She looks real good for 40, but she's 40. It's like, it's a tough sell. So this is probably still going to make $1 billion, because this guy, what's his face, and Chris Hemsworth, he's a huge draw, and they kind of feel like Thor. They kind of finally figured out this character. It doesn't matter. No, none of this stuff matter. Hollywood is over in 2016. I should have read the writing on the wall. I think Ethan actually said I think he was the guy who said, like, talking about people that Trump derangement syndrome. He says, yeah, this is a one-way journey for a lot of these people. Trump derangement syndrome is permanent for these people. They're not going to come back from it. And it also, you know, infected Hollywood, or at least they took the mask off, where, you know, the road they were going down. And then in the 2020 stuff, they just kept getting more and more mask off, where you're just getting nonsense. And there's no way they're going to turn it around. Stuff like Disney and Disneyland and the Disney corporate movie family, they're not going to turn any of this stuff around, because if they do, they have to admit that the stuff that they're pushing, the BLT and everything, and the race swap and everything, if they turn around, then they have to admit that those things are not values they uphold, and they do uphold those values. They're a globalist company. They will push globalism, even if it puts them in chapter, I don't know, 11 or 13, whatever it is. They really don't care. This is a religion for these people. So you're going to get movies like this. Like, if this is going to hit probably $1 billion. If Batman and what's the other one that came up? Spider-Man. If those movies made $1 billion, then the cattle, and if you pay for those movies, yeah, you're cattle. If you pay for it, you support it. Those movies made $1 billion because stupid people will just accept anything. They will just pay for anything to sit in a theater and eat popcorn. It's just the most mindless bread and circuses. It's depressing. No, it's not depressing, because there's a lot of stupid people. You can't expect anything other than stupid people behaving according to programming. But that, I mean, those movies, they swapped out the characters, and they also had, you know, woke Bolshevik cultural Marxist propaganda in those films, and they still made $1 billion. Like with Spider-Man, Spider-Man, okay, Peter Parker, that was Spider-Man. That guy played the role pretty well, but all the other characters were swapped out for the original characters. Oh, well, it doesn't matter. I mean, obviously it doesn't, because movies are financial instruments. They made $1 billion. That's amazing. And to be fair, a lot of people coming out of the the gift from overseas were ready for something. So that I think that had, like, there's a rebound effect, an isostatic rebound sort of thing, where people were ready for stuff. And I think you're still seeing that now, where I think this is going to do huge. It looks okay. It's like he's a real personal actor. I think Chris Pratt is in it as a Guardians guy, and that guy is a big draw too. So yeah, it's gonna be stupid. I mean, it's Disney covering Marvel, covering the comics, is just gonna be painfully stupid. But my point was that if they're willing to accept Spider-Man and Batman, then they're willing to accept that. Okay, that was funny. There's a couple. Not everything woke is unfunny. They're willing to accept anything, because they just want to sit in a theater and argue about stuff on Twitter. Get in focus. So, no, not going to get in focus. It's based on a European pantheon, European deities, Scandinavian, Northern European House of the Gods structure based on the people that they modeled themselves after. Sweden, Norway, Finland, whatever those Viking type of folks. That's what they modeled the deities on after themselves. So it's very European. It's like as soon as you saw that Disney taking over this thing, and you saw they go to Asgard, and it's like. So the guy the Heimdall, who is shining white, he was a shining white character in the mythology, is an African dude. Like, yeah, it's part of the humiliation ritual. That's why they replaced red-haired characters. It's like, they do all this stuff for a reason. Would the movies have made more money if they maintained true to form and used blonde and red-haired characters, blue eyes and green eyes? Absolutely. Absolutely. They were willing to lose a little bit of money to rub your nose in this substitution of one for another. Be careful there, Bianca. That Google algorithm is the walls have ears. So when you saw that, it's like, oh, so this is like, not only is it insulting to the European mythology, it's insulting to the comic books. Like even Stan Lee and what's his face, Jack Kirby were. They wanted to sell comics, but they wanted to sell comics that weren't just ridiculous. So they had, they maintained a certain theme in Thor. And so when the movies decided to make movies on this, it's like, see, it's a European house of the god, a European pantheon, European deities, Scandinavian specifically. And you get an African guy in essentially heaven that's made for Scandinavian people, and then obviously she's what's her name, Tia Thomas or something, and Natalie Portman's from Israel. It's like they're not European actors, and at least one is very visibly not. It's like why would you put it in the movie? It's like, oh, that's part of the humiliation ritual that they do this kind of thing. And then my point is, if people are willing to accept just the garbage that comes out. Hollywood is over in 2016. I should have saw that. Hollywood was definitely over in 2020. The overseas stuff put a kibosh on a lot of movies from Hollywood, and then they came back like even woker than before. And some of the woke stuff is successful, like Batman and Spider-Man. People go, oh, those weren't woke. Those made $1 billion. Yeah, they were woke. They just boiled the frog so slowly that you didn't notice how woke they were. Listen, Spider-Man, their original characters, Stan Lee and Jack Kirby wrote the original characters. Two probably for the time liberal Jewish guys at the time who, they wanted to write good stories. They also wanted to make a ton of money, but they had some verisimilitude. They had some structure that they're adhering to, and the modern Disney is just like, oh, none of that matters. And it's not Disney's fault because the people go to the theaters and pay their $15 for this just garbage. So those movies, Batman and Spider-Man, they were woke. They've always been woke. As soon as you replace characters, as soon as you swap out red-haired and blonde-haired European characters for non-Europeans, it's like, oh, yeah, it's woke. It's just they boil the frog you don't even notice. And once you're past a certain age, or if you're a comic book fan, like there are some guys who are kind of a little autistic on the spectrum who are. They're not woke or not woke. They're just kind of beyond that. They notice this swapping, and they put up a stink about it because they view it as something that's inaccurate. And I don't think I'm on the spectrum, and I look at it. It would be a nice excuse to have, but they look at it and they kind of call it as they see it, which is I try to model myself after that. Like, just if you think it, you should be able to say it and just call it as you see it. So they're the ones who are raising a little bit of a stink about, you're swapping out characters. Well, it's not the character anymore. So with all this stuff, it's like none of this, like, do movies matter? No, movies don't matter. Movies are silly, especially now. None of this matters. None of Disney matters. None of Star Wars matters. It's all, maybe the 77 to 83 Star Wars, like George Lucas did something there. He made 3 movies, and I know they were just movies, but he made 3 solid movies that followed. They told a story. They told a simple story very well, and they had an emotional impact on people. Did the modern Disney Star Wars have any impact? Absolutely not. Is anything from Disney in the past 20 years, will any of it stand the test of time? No, 0. I don't think there's anyone who says it would, because, listen, look at the rewatchability numbers, because all this stuff is trackable. It's all digitable. I know I can't say it because I'm trying to say it. You know what I'm saying? It's like you can track a lot of this stuff. Those DVD sales, like, dude, they don't even sell DVDs anymore. Back in my day, we had VHS, and then we had the enhanced version of VHS when Lucas starts fixing it. And to be fair, he did fix some small things. So you can track this stuff, and you go, oh, so what's the rewatchability for Disney? Oh, it doesn't exist. They're not rewatching any of it because it's junk. I mean, that's why you can watch the theater performance and you go, oh, people saw it the opening weekend, and then it rapidly dropped off. People were expecting, in 2015, people were expecting Disney to knock it out of the park. And then they saw that first movie, and they got 20 minutes in. They're like, okay, first 20 minutes looks solid. And then you realize, oh, this is getting weird. Oh, this is okay. Well, the second movie's going to knock it out of the park, and you see the second movie, you're like, oh dear God, Disney's doing this on purpose. $1 billion companies, $100 billion companies don't make bad movies negligently or recklessly. This was intentional. They're doing all this stuff intentionally. Anyway, so some of the scenes in this movie were funny. Listen, you can go sailing. Go sailing. You don't need to, you know what I'm saying? The gay stuff is funny. It's funny when you have two people that are obviously straight, like super, super straight, and then they do some gay joke. It's funny because you know it's so asinine, but it's not funny in Hollywood because at the turn of a keyboard, they can make the characters BLT if they want to. And there's nothing stopping them. Like Chris Hemsworth Chris Pratt is Christian, so he might not be on board with it. But Chris Hemsworth, he's just following the money. And to be fair, who wouldn't? If you're talking about the money that he's going around Hollywood. But not everything woke is bad. They did a little scene where they're eyeballing each other and they're doing a little play on they're in love or he's in love with Chris Pratt or something. It was funny. It was cute. It's like it's not everything woke is dumb. But like two different groups of people can do stuff, and if like you have one, like Hollywood has got a core degeneracy, anything they do is going to be degenerate. And if the opposite is also true, which is like it can be funny and sometimes, but something like this where he's standing naked in a field and it's like or in the ring, it's like this is just nonsense. I was gonna say it's Disney nonsense, but it's like Disney has gone kind of adult, but they've also gone cringe and degenerate all at once. And he's pining after Natalie Portman. She's a 40-year-old woman who's got grandkids probably by now. No deity is going to be pining after 40. She looks great for 40, don't get me wrong, but she's a 40-year-old woman, and he's a deity. He would be going after some 15-year-old, because that's how gods roll. Anyway, you don't have to pay for any of this. This is very difficult to get through it and not just use too many hot words. So this is the pantheon of the Northern European people, but neither one of these people are Northern European. Oh, yeah. Well, we don't have to respect the European people. If you pay for it, you get more of this. And as the country gets to further and further to the left of the bell curve, you're just going to get more and more of this kind of stuff because people will pay for this stuff because they're just idiots. They're just idiots. Anyway, like, comment, subscribe. Thank you for the recent subscriber donation. That was very cool. I had 3 and I asked for 5 to get to the next level and I got 7. So that's amazing. I asked them on Gab. I said, hey, I need more subs so I can get to the next level and get paid. They only pay out if you have 5 subs. So 7 people joined up. So that's a really cool community. Thank you for that. I will see you guys all next episode.